Okay, here we go. Good evening. Today is the first day of December 2020. The time is 6:30. We'd like to begin our city council meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd rise and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd ask the city clerk to do roll call.
Harrington.
Here.
McKinney, absent. O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Schuster.
Here.
Stalder.
Here.
Weaver. Absent. Gabriel.
Here.
Shumway.
Here.
That's 7 present and 2 absent, Your Honor.
All right, we have a quorum, so we'll begin. We're going to begin our city council meeting with the public comment period on non-agenda items, with one exception, and that is for those that it will be announced by our vice mayor, but the public hearing on the sale of the property at the Turner Track is being moved to a different date. So if you're here to speak on that topic, you're welcome to do it during public comment period now or at the end of the meeting, but there will be no public hearing for that. So you'll each have 3 minutes to speak. We ask you to make sure that you do not make any personal attacks and that you use appropriate language. So if there's anyone that would like to speak during this public comment period, let us know and we'll begin. I don't see anyone, so we're going to close the public comment period. And we'll go to the vice mayor for the considerations of changes in the agenda and setting the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that the following change to the agenda be approved. It's under the public hearing, 6BI, that we postpone the public hearing, notice of intent to sell real estate described as Partial 1, Block 1 revised Turner Track addition to Encore Partners, LLC, postponed tonight, rescheduled for December 15th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that change be made to the agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vice Mayor?
And Mayor, I would move that the agenda be set as changed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Councilor Schuster. All in favor of the meeting being set, the agenda being set, indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, our agenda is set. We don't have any proclamations or public hearings now, so I'll go to our Assistant City Manager, Todd Feaser, with some announcements.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, thanks for allowing me to make a couple announcements. First announcement tonight is like to remind everybody that the mask mandate has been continued and enhanced, that it will be continued and enhanced from December 1st through January 4th, 2021. It's got all the existing language as well as enhancements to include when a business is enclosed and employees are working side by side, they're required to wear a mask. It applies to people who are 12 years and older. And then the mandate is waived in situations where it involves law enforcement. And just like to remind everybody that the mask mandate is in effect. The second announcement is that this weekend, numerous staff members, volunteers from the Laramie Railroad Depot, Councilor Schuster, volunteers from Laramie Main Street and Laramie Main Street Alliance spent some time applying Christmas lights to the depot train, or to the snow train display. And this Friday at 6 p.m. will be the lighting of the snow train in lieu of the lighting of the tree at First Street Plaza to provide more space so people can socially distance for that event. So Friday, December 4th at 6 p.m., make sure you come down and see the snow train lighting for the first time in Laramie. And thank you.
Thank you. Are there any disclosures by anyone on the city council with any items that they have a conflict of interest with? Okay, seeing none, we'll go back to the Vice Mayor for the approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that the consent agenda be approved, that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Councilor Schuster. Do we have roll call on the approval of the consent agenda?
Harrington,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes,
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
thank you. The consent agenda has been approved. Now we'll go to the regular agenda. The first item is item number 11. Councilor Stalder.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm having internet difficulties over here. That's why I was going in and out of audio earlier. Give me just 1 second.
She has trouble. I can back her up.
That's okay, I got it. I move to approve the amendment, Amendment 1 to the fee-for-service contract with the Laramie Regional Airport and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Councilor Harrington.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So, who is going to introduce this item to us? Is it
Mayor, that will be me.
City Manager? Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, council. This is a mid-year amendment to the fee-for-service agreement with the Laramie Regional Airport. By way of refresher, the council will recall that the Laramie Regional Airport applied for roughly half of their typical annual year's funding. This year, that was $50,000, which the council awarded. They did so because they had received some relief funding through the CARES Act to help offset their operational costs out at the airport. However, as the pandemic has continued to affect the airline industry and of course the airport, as you know, they are in the middle of a fairly costly terminal expansion project. And this has caused them to reconsider the reduction in their fee-for-service agreement. And so they've come back to us through the director, Jack Skinner, and through Councilor Stelter, who of course is the council liaison to that board, to seek a mid-year amendment to their fee-for-service agreement in the amount of $23,007. It should be noted that that increase would simply offset their payment of plant investment fees to the city in relation to the terminal expansion product. That plant investment fee is for a 2-inch water line meter and a sewer service for the new terminal project. As you know, it's not atypical for the city to engage in mid-year community partner awards or fee-for-service agreement adjustments. If you award this tonight, it will bring to total $73,007 for the Laramie Regional Airport this year, which is still 25% less than they typically receive from the city in any given year. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Council, any questions for our city manager? Any questions from the public regarding this fee for service at the Laramie Regional Airport? Any comments from the council before we vote? Do we have a roll call?
Stalder,
Yes.
Kinney,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. That item has been approved. Item number 12, Counselor Pierce.
Okay, I move to approve Resolution 2020-70, transferring unencumbered and unexpended appropriations balances from one fund to another and amending appropriations for the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget of the city of Laramie, Wyoming, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded by Vice Mayor Gabriel. We have both our Chief Operating Officer, Malia Brown, and also Jennifer Wade here. Malia, did you want to introduce this, or?
Mayor Jen will introduce.
Okay, Jennifer, would you please introduce this for us?
Honorable Mayor and City Councilors, you're being asked to consider a budget amendment this evening that is a non-routine amendment to reinstate COVID-19 pandemic planning reductions that the city manager recommended and the city council approved at the budget special meeting on May 20th, 2020. As you'll recall, the city manager recommended a budget to you in accordance with our normal deadlines, and we went through a typical schedule of work sessions and special meetings during the 2021 budget preparation process. And during the last budget special meeting on May the 20th, the city manager recommended additional reductions to reflect the uncertainty surrounding pandemic planning. And that uncertainty had two factors. The largest factor in that uncertainty is that the Department of Treasury had not issued final guidance on CARES Act funding criteria. Certainly, we hadn't seen anything from the Office of State Lands and Investments. And so to ensure that the city was eligible for the most amount of CARES Act funding possible, the city recommended budget reductions. And in addition, the city wanted to reflect some of the uncertainty surrounding the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, as the months progressed, we got a lot of final guidance from the Department of Treasury and the Office of State Land and Investment. And what we learned is that, in fact, not being budgeted in substance was the criteria that those agencies applied in order to be eligible for CARES Act funding. And so we're recommending at this time, as we've moved forward, as we've had very successful funding attempts, to reinstate these reductions that were made primarily to ensure CARES Act funding eligibility, but also because we weren't certain about the economic impacts of the pandemic. What I would direct you to as a resource is the memo that the city manager prepared for the meeting on May the 20th. And what you will notice is that tonight's budget amendment is an amount that exactly balances to that memo. And so while the amendment for this evening is $29,157,749, that is actually a reduction that we took to the city's budget as of May 2020 last year from the recommended budget to get us to the adopted budget, and we're recommending a reversal of that at this time. Now, of that $29 million total, I would like to point out that $22.5 million is related to the Municipal Operations Center. About $16 million of that is actually related to project cost in the Capital Construction Fund, and the other $6.5 million of that is interfund transfer expense from our enterprise funds, so that those funds contribute their support, their part of that project to the Capital Construction Fund where that project is being constructed. So that is the largest component of this amendment. More generally speaking, in governmental funds, you would be amending $20,677,164 this evening. $17,103,066 of that is in the Capital Construction Fund, and $16 million is the Municipal Operations Center. The second largest component of that governmental funds amendment is in the general fund for $2,552,208. And as you'll notice, referring to the memo on May the 20th, most of that was actually our contingency planning reduction in payroll expenses, again, to ensure that if we needed to not have that in the budget to be eligible for CARES Act funding, that it wasn't there. In the enterprise funds, we're recommending a budget amendment of $8,480,585. And of that total, around $6.5 million, again, is related to interfund transfer expense for the Public Works Service Center. At this time, I would like to, well, before I open it up for questions, I just want to give you a heads up about future amendments, because this has been a highly unusual year. You saw an amendment related to CARES Act funding at last council meeting. You will see a final amendment related to CARES Act funding at one of your meetings in January. I'm not sure which one yet. And these are amendments in particular that we are preparing to make sure that we increase transparency, as I said last week, related to emergency expenditures for the pandemic. And so you can expect one more unusual amendment from me in January as a routine one, as well as what we're currently planning. And with that in mind, I'd like to open it up for questions at this time.
Thank you, Jennifer Wade. Good introduction. Council, are there any questions you have for Jennifer Wade? Councilor Harrington?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jennifer, can you maybe give me, this is probably slightly, maybe not off topic, but a side topic. What is the revenue picture looking like for the city, given that we've had a few quarters where we've likely seen some sort of sales tax reporting? What are things looking like?
I think on the sales and use tax front, it's actually much better than we expected. And I can give you through the end of October some county-wide totals, and I want to make sure I make that caveat. This is county-wide 4th, 5th, and 6th cent taxes, right? So by sector, I think what we're seeing is better than expected results in retail sales and online. If you think about Alameda County, that's actually our biggest driver of sales tax collections, right? And so county-wide, all taxes, right now we're up about 1.9 million compared to where we were last year. The additional thing that we're seeing this year is that we have some mining activity that we're asking the state to dig into a little bit more, that has provided some significant additional tax collections to Albany County. And by significant, I mean to the tune of $3.5 million. We have heard from the county that they think that is mining, and I have requested additional detail from the state regarding the specific vendor that remitted that sales tax, because we really want to know where that's coming from to be able to assess whether that's one time or ongoing. Now we would tend to lean towards on one time, right? What we continue to be really worried about, and Leah can chime in more here, is the direct distribution, especially in the future. With there being so much variability in sales tax in some of our mineral rich communities, the direct distribution formula will actually direct revenue away from Laramie to those communities. And so we will see a decline in the direct distribution in future years. And we have that in mind, right? So it seems like it's always both with the city, but sales tax collections at least are better than expected. And that is a major source of revenue for the general fund. Malia, do you have anything to add to that?
Anyone else? Jennifer, just a question. Pete Lean Mining, have we received funding for that operation in the past?
I'm sorry, Mayor, can you repeat the first part of your question? For what type of mining?
There's a mining operation that's tied to Monolith Ranch. It's a Monolith Cement Company. It's called Pete Lean Mining, I believe. Have we received any funding for that operation, or is that not considered mining, but more of a different, like a open, for gravel, etc.?
Honorable Mayor, unfortunately, the data that the city gets for its sales tax collections don't include vendors. It's a special request from the state, and that's why we don't exactly have the detail now for what's causing this large variance. But certainly, when we get that data, if I see that name there, we can report back to you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else with questions for Jennifer or for our Malia Brown. Any questions from the public? Or any comments? Comments from the city council? Jessica, Councilor Stalder?
I'm still in your blind spot somehow. I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. I know these are tough decisions, and I see some of the department heads on here. I just wonder if they maybe had any comments about how it affects their departments.
Mayor, if I might,
Yes, go ahead,
I think
City Clerk.
if we could get a little more clarification on what Councilor Stalder is
Okay.
asking.
Councilor Stalder, do you want to just clarify what you're asking these departments to make comments on? Is it on how it affects their budget, or if it's something that they had anticipated? Whatever your
Like
question.
operations. I mean, I'm looking through it, and you know, I just wonder if there's going to be any effect to the operations due to all the budget cuts. If they could comment on that.
Okay.
And if not, it's okay too. Just, I know budget cuts are really tough.
All right. Brooks Webb is going to make some comments on that. Brooks, go ahead.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, this amendment is, putting a lot of projects back in play for us. It's going to be a lot more work on our plate. I'm meeting with all our managers within our department later this week to go over the budget amendment and come up with a schedule on getting some of these projects moving forward. Some of them we already had in play, the CIPP lining, which if you take both projects there, $600,000. We actually had that out to bid in May, and then when this came forward, we pulled it from the bid. So that project's pretty much ready to go out. We got to dust it off and change some dates and stuff in there. But that project's about ready to go out. Some of the projects, we actually already have the design completed, sitting on the shelf, waiting for these to come back. So, I mean, we're excited about them because we get to move forward with them. I mean, we originally proposed them in the budget because we saw a need for them and wanted to get them done. And so, we're excited to have them come back, but it is going to be additional work on staff to get them going forward. And we may see some of these projects rolling over, rebudgeting in next year because we may not have the time to complete them all this year. But that's okay. That's kind of typical. If we don't get them done, we'll rebudget them and just keep them moving forward. But as a whole, we're excited to get them going. We originally proposed them in the budget so that we could do it. We're just a few months behind on some of them at this point. That's all.
Councilor Stalder, is that everything that you had? Okay.
Honorable Mayor, if I could, Councilor Stalder, I think that was a really good question. And I'd just like to comment that this list of projects that was originally reduced was not developed in isolation at all. So we actually worked with our department heads and especially Director Webb to ensure that the projects that were being reduced at that time would not negatively impact him in the long run. And so I just want you all to know that this was a list that was developed collaboratively. But I know that everyone is really happy to get things closer to normal again.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councilor Schuster.
Yes, I had brought this topic up out of City Council with some people, and they said they were amazed on sales tax being pulled in, but everybody has to remember the United States passed a law that if you order something online now, you are taxed as of your county. So it used to be several years ago, if you bought something off eBay or some other site like that, there was no tax on it. And now there is. So it has helped us immensely in our tax collection. that if you order something online now, it is charged the appropriate sales tax for that county. So that is one thing that I think that's really helped us this year, because a lot of people have done a huge amount of online buying instead of going to a retailer this year. So I think that's probably helped us a lot.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Given the number of budget adjustments that have been made in light of all of this year's events, I want to just make a comment that I think it would probably be very beneficial for the council and the staff and the public, for purposes of transparency and understanding, that as we move into the regular budget period for the next year, that we incorporate a retrospective of these changes and adjustments in the different times that we've made them, and how those end up reflecting themselves in the overall budget. And that very well may be in the works from our staff, and I would anticipate that it would be. But I think that would be very useful for us, because I think by the time we get to where we are in May or June of next year, it's going to be difficult to go back all the way through to I can't remember when we made this some of the first adjustments, but I think it would be good for us to have that retrospective to help us sort of be able to place all those changes and adjustments to the budget in context as we move forward into the next portion of this. And Jennifer, I see you nodding, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I anticipated that something like that would probably be in the works anyway, but let me just, provide a enthusiastic voice for making sure that we do that when we get to the regular budgeting period for 2021. I think that would help all of us, and I think it'll help all of our ratepayers and taxpayers in the city too, that keep track of these things, to just have a better and more complete understanding, because it's complicated, and it's more complicated than usual. I think it's fair to say it will be more complicated than usual. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Weaver. Councilor Harrington.
It's a little bit out of order, Mr. Mayor, but I had one more question, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Jennifer, is this sort of framework for how we're budgeting, with sort of keeping reductions in the budget with the hope of CARES Act funding them? Is that something we should expect into 2021's budget, given that there may be more funding available? If all goes exceedingly well, there'll be more federal funds available.
I would hope, Honorable Mayor, through you, I would hope that there would be more certainty surrounding the guidance that might be attached to that funding, and that we could avoid these types of large adjustments as we're looking at the fiscal year 2022 budget. Again, this was a very unusual year with a lot of uncertainty, and we really like to avoid these types of large adjustments if we can, right? Simply for some of the reasons Councilor Weaver was articulating. It is confusing. And so I think if there is we are certainly done with the current round of CARES Act funding. And if there's a future round, I would hope that we would know more and be able to deal with it differently.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Other comments from the council? All right, obviously this is a large amount of money, and that's something that we work on throughout the year, and we appreciate Malia Brown and Jennifer Wade's hard work on preparing this so that we are able to have clarity on this before we vote. But I think we're ready for the vote, so let's have roll call.
Pierce.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Stelter,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. So this budget amendment has passed, and now we go to item number 13. Counselor O'Doherty.
I move to approve Resolution 2020-71, adopting bylaws and rules of procedure pursuant to Laramie Municipal Code, LMC, Section 10.08, and upon passage of LMC Section 10.08, authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for us to adopt the resolution pursuant to the bylaws of the Traffic Commission. And after this passes or fails, we will then move on to the adoption of the ordinance for third reading on the Traffic Commission. So let's open this up to Brooks. Are you going to introduce this to us for the resolution on the bylaws?
Yes, sir. Honorable Mayor, City Council, if I could, I'll just do a quick kind of timeline on how we got here. It's been a while since we started this, and I, for one, am excited to hopefully get it wrapped up, get it behind us, and get the Traffic Commission back to work. Back on August 20th, 2019, City Council passed Resolution 2019-64. That resolution temporarily suspended the Traffic Commission until revisions to code could be made. The resolution resolved that revisions to LMC 10.08 were necessary, and the resolution directed staff to bring recommendations back to council addressing issues outlined in the resolution. So I included that resolution in your packet. That resolution was really, when we started working through these bylaws and ordinance, that resolution was really our number one guide. That resolution said, hey, there's something wrong with Laramie Municipal Code. This is what we think's wrong. Please bring us back some recommendations to fix that. And so we referred back to that resolution that you enacted many times to make sure that we were putting together what you really wanted. Staff also researched many other boards and commissions within the city and actually across the country. You can Google search boards and commissions and traffic commissions, and a million things come up. And so we did a lot of research there, and really is what that research was for us, is we were trying to put together the sections of the bylaws and the sections of the ordinance. And when I talk about sections, if you look at the draft bylaws that we've given you, Section 1 is explanation and interpretation. Section 2 is responsibilities. Section 3 is general procedures. So that research kind of helped us put those sections together, those section titles together anyway. And then in November 2019, we met with all Traffic Commission members and the council liaison, and we asked them some pointed questions, and the questions were really based on those section titles that we put together and trying to formulate the verbiage to go inside those sections, and based off of what our Traffic Commission members really wanted and really saw as their role as Traffic Commission members. So 3 items really drove the bylaws and the ordinance. 1 was the resolution. 2 was those interviews that we did with Traffic Commission and Council Liaison, and 3 was just research of other boards and commissions. After we met with the Traffic Commission members, we put together a draft of the bylaws, draft of the ordinance. We then met with city manager, city attorney, chief operating officer, and went over everything and cleaned it up a bit. And then right after that, we came to you guys in February 2020 and had a work session on the bylaws and the ordinance. At that work session, I thought went really well. I actually went back a couple weeks ago and listened to the entire thing, just to make sure I remember what was going on, where we were at. We planned, after that meeting, we planned on bringing the item back to you in March. It was the same night that COVID really kind of blew up with council, and we suspended stuff, and we were trying to limit items on the agenda, so we put it on the back burner for a little bit. And then in October, I noticed the council agenda was pretty lean, and I said, man, this is a good time to bring this forward. Let's get this thing done and wrapped up before the new year, and we can get Traffic Commission back in January and get things moving forward. As far as the bylaws themselves, what you have with you tonight is pretty much word for word what you saw in February. There was some grammar changes, some formatting changes. And then the only real change that I've made in here is to section 11 that has to do with the quorum. And that change was required because of the amendment you made to the bylaws, or to the ordinance, changing the amount of membership. So I think we went from a quorum as 5 to a quorum as 4 now. So that was changed, and then I also added some wording just to really define what a quorum is. The Traffic Commission Chair has had a couple questions regarding defining a quorum for her to make that easier going forward, and so I think we did that. And then earlier today, I sent over that proposed change that we talked about in the pre-council meeting. And that, for me, was really just trying to clarify for you all what we were talking about. And in February, when we were at the council meeting, we were able to talk through it, but it's been so long ago now, we've all forgotten. So I wanted to clarify what that section was in there, and that was section 3, General Procedures A. You guys talked about that in pre-council. And that's just my recommendation. I was just hoping to clarify that for you. What we were trying to do is basically, when we talked at the work session and when we talked with Traffic Commission members, the idea was that if an item came in from the public that was easy for us to handle, that we would just take care of that internally and get that done and not have to go through the Traffic Commission procedure, which can sometimes take a couple of months. Some items, I mean, we can get wrapped up in a couple of days. In fact, I was looking back, I had an email from Councilor Gabriel, it may have been a year ago now, I can't remember the date, but it was in regards to some site issues at the corner of Beach and Vista with some traffic parking there. Normally that would go through, we'd put that together, it'd go to Traffic Commission, and it'd take us a couple of months to get through that process. I went out and looked at it the day Mr. Gabriel sent me over his concern, and we had that taken care of within 4 or 5 days. We basically went out and painted the radius of the corners yellow to get the traffic back so that you could actually see when you pull out. But we were able to get that done within it was within a week. We were done with it. So that's what that section is for, is allowing us to take care of those things that are within reason and easy for staff to handle, and not hold up, citizens' concern that is totally legit, obviously. One of those items that we talked about with Traffic Commission that we would handle quickly was handicap spots. Instead of waiting for those are pretty simple for us to handle internally. When we talked to Traffic Commission about that, every Traffic Commission member and council liaison all agreed that staff should be handling some of those items. So anyway, that's why that's there. I don't know that I have anything else to throw out at you, but if you've got questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, questions on the bylaws. Councilor Schuster.
Would you like me to make you a friendly amendment at this time?
Whenever you're ready to do that, go ahead.
So in section 3, general procedures, we are going to start with it just like it normally is. Anyone requesting that an item be reviewed by the commission shall be put in request in writing to the city engineer, who shall determine, and we're gonna stop right there. We're gonna remove the words, is his or her sole discretion whether to place any matter on the agenda. And we're gonna try to explain this a little bit now, and we're gonna start up right there. It says, if staff has the capacity to and the ability to resolve the citizen's concern in an expedited manner without the assistance of the traffic commission, the city engineer shall summarize all such items on the upcoming traffic commission agenda. And then it goes right back to the wording that we have on here, the last sentence. It says, the traffic commission may be majority voted directed that an issue be placed on a future agenda. So everything's in writing. I know that the city clerk has it in front of her too, so I think she can completely do that for anyone. It was also emailed to all the counselors if you opened up your email from Brooks Webb. So that is my friendly amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Vice Mayor Gabriel. Discussion on the amendment. Councilor Harrington?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious what happens if the decision made by staff and the with the intention of expediting the process, and I think that is worthwhile. If that becomes controversial, what is the recourse for the public to engage the traffic commission? How does that process start, and then what does that look like in practice when the traffic commission is by these bylaws and the ordinance itself simply advising the city engineer? Thank you.
Yeah, I think our Public Works Director, do you want to answer that question, Brooks, or would that be?
Sure, Councilor Weaver, through you, Mayor. Traffic Commission meetings are public meetings, and anybody's welcome to go in at any time and make a public comment or concern. There's a portion in your bylaws that actually talks about, oh gosh, where is that? Anyway, I think there's somewhere in there that basically says that that the traffic commission will hear the public, and then this gives the traffic commission hears that, they can by majority vote direct that issue to be placed on the agenda for their further discussion. I hope that helps with what you were asking.
Councilor Harrington, did that answer the question?
Mr. Mayor, it does, yeah, just to a large extent. I'm curious, I guess, if the public is displeased by the decision reached by staff, what is there beyond a public comment? So if we have a group of residents, I'm certainly not talking about a sole resident, but if a group of residents thinks that the decision was not suitable for the specific incident, how does this end up at, and maybe this is a different question that's maybe not quite as pertinent to this, but where did this amendment, but where does it end up? What is the council oversight in this situation, I guess is maybe the question. And that's where it may stray from maybe this amendment. So I'm just going to take your answer, Mr. Webb, and let other council members ask questions, and I can save that question for a bit later.
If I could, Mayor, I think Councilor Harrington, through you, Mayor, with anything, the public has the ability to come to these meetings and address council. If they're not happy with what staff's doing, they have the ability to email you, to call you. They have the ability to talk to the city manager's office and contact them. But I mean, our plan is to work with the citizens, and The other thing is if these people, if a citizen comes in with a concern that we can handle, we're gonna take that, we're gonna handle it, and if we don't address it the way they want, we're gonna notify them, we're gonna let them know we can't. We're gonna give them options, they can come talk to traffic commission, they can talk to council. This procedure, if they wanna, you know, I mean, these are open meetings, they can come.
Yeah, Mr. Webb, that's great. I appreciate that answer for sure. Thank you.
Okay, here's the order that we're gonna follow now. We're gonna start with our city manager, Janine Jordan, then we're gonna go to Councilor Weaver and then Councilor Schuster. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up on Councilor Harrington's question. I think Brooks did a great job answering it. But to kind of get to the meat of the matter, I think from my perspective, if a member of the public is dissatisfied with the action of staff and we handle something, then they certainly could bring that to the commission. As Brooks said, those are public meetings. They certainly are always welcome to appeal to my office. In terms of the review I would conduct, I would be looking to make sure our staff followed all applicable regulations and standards of their profession to make the decision that they made. If at such time we find ourselves in a situation where the Traffic Commission wishes to advise or recommend that the council overrule the decision of staff based on safety standards or professional standards, then my belief is, and Bob Southard may want to weigh in, that then that could come to the level of council, because only you as the elected officials have the authority to encumber the city with the liability that could come from a decision being made outside of professional standards or safety established rules and regulations. Bob, does that seem reasonable to you?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Let me amplify. I'll be extremely blunt about this. Nothing stops something from getting to council. We're talking about dissatisfaction with the staff decision, could be dissatisfaction with the traffic commission decision. Either which way, I mean, if it's absolutely untenable to somebody what happened in front of the commission, either staff's recommendation or the commission's, it's going to come to council. You are the final stop, and nothing that we've done either in this ordinance or in these bylaws changes that. Now, I wish it were different, but you're not, you know, you can't assign that responsibility. That it's as simple as that. I think that the point of this amendment that you're discussing right now is to say staff will try to deal with things expeditiously, tell the traffic commission what staff did, so traffic commission is not in the dark, and then if the traffic commission wants that, you know, on their formal agenda, they can do it. But almost no, I'm talking too long, and I'm sorry, I'm filibustering. But nothing that happens at traffic commission, staff or the commission is going to shield city council finally from a big problem. And not problem, I shouldn't say that, it's controversy. It's what you do. So that's the way I see it.
Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm very satisfied with this amendment and the change that it seeks to make from the original wording. I think the staff was definitely on the right track, taking a look at this and seeing how they could adjust that language so that it addressed some concerns, and certainly addressed concerns I have. And some of this other discussion I think has been very, very useful as well. And I think in some sense, some of it is a little bit of just pragmatism and common sense. The buck does stop with the city council. I think it's difficult for all of us to have this conversation because we, on one level, want to try to just consider the changes to the traffic commission and the creation of these bylaws to govern it on their own. But of course, we do recall what generated the need to review the structure of our traffic commission. And I think we have, it's hard to not imagine, you know, perhaps some future scenario where a group of citizens might want to see a change, but it might be something outside of the professional standards and recommendations. I don't think that happens a lot. I think those are very, very rare instances. So I don't think it's something that we need to be concerned with particularly, but it has happened and it could happen. So I think members of the council, due to our responsibility to the public, just want to make sure that there are those avenues. And of course there are. And I think the staff and the city manager and the city attorney have outlined exactly how that works. So I think this is a good amendment, and I'm prepared to support it. And I think it goes a long way towards making sure that people still feel like they have a citizen channel to a citizen commission that advises the city government. So I think it's a good one, and I'm definitely going to be supporting it.
Thank you. Councilor Schuster.
Thank you. I want to read half of the sentence again. It says, if the staff has the capacity and the ability to resolve the citizen's concern in an expedited manner. So we're not taking anything else away. If they can't do it, it might go to the traffic commission. If they can't do it, it might come to city council. But we're wandering way off this amendment in our statements on this. So I just want to know that this is just explaining that if we can, we'll take care of it, and it won't have to take 3 months. It might take a week instead. That's all this amendment's for. And we're wandering way off of this amendment. Thank you.
Councilor Doherty.
Yeah, I was in favor of this amendment when I was thinking about handicap parking, but when Mr. Webb just stated painting a bunch of yellow at an intersection, I think that's exactly what people want input on. So I'm wondering, how does that, the information we received a couple of meetings back about informing the public around when we're doing changes to traffic, would that still be done? Because in this case, the case that Mr. Webb described, it was an intersection that lost parking. And that's the kind of thing that the public gets pretty excited about. Thank you.
Councilor Doherty, through you, Mayor. One of the reasons that was handled that way was because the Traffic Commission was suspended, and one of the resolves in your resolution says that traffic safety issues shall continue to be reviewed by staff. And so we looked at that as a traffic safety issue. We did the minimum amount of removal on that corner. We used the YDOT pipe pavement marking manual. We did 20 feet from center. So we didn't actually, I didn't even have the engineers look at it and do a site triangle analysis on it, because it would have been a heck of a lot more yellow paint. I literally took the minimum out of the YDOT traffic manual, and the reason we were able to move forward with that was because Traffic Commission was suspended, and we couldn't take it to them. And the resolution, you know, basically says that we'll continue to manage the street safety, traffic safety issues.
Okay, Councilor Stalder.
Thank you. Mr. Webb, I wonder if you could comment, you know, if the Traffic Commission was currently meeting, if that's something that you would have taken to the Traffic Commission, that removal of parking, or what exactly other than handicap parking permits come up that fits the, you know, nature of this amendment?
I think in that incident, I honestly, I don't know that I would have taken that to traffic commission. We would have summarized it in the agenda. I think it was a traffic safety issue. We handled it with the minimum. Probably what we would have taken to the traffic commission was the full design with all the site triangles at a later date. So we would have showed them, look, this is what we did. We did the minimum. This is what should be done, and show the site triangles with more and go over that. When we did that painting also, the reason that traffic was parked there was Premier Bona Joint was in the middle of their construction, and so all their employees were parking out there, so they weren't in the construction area. We did directly notify Premier Bona Joint and let them know what we were going to be doing there, and they agreed with it and had made sure their employees parked away so that we could get that painting removal done. Other than that, there's no other property owners there, so we weren't necessarily removing parking from in front of a resident or anything else. There's, the only people that were parking there was Premier Bona Joint, and the adjoining properties are all vacant. I think another item, traffic safety item that we handled that probably would go to traffic commission was we had a stop sign at Glacier and Cliff. With all the new development out there and all the new traffic, we had a citizen concern come in that they thought there should be a stop sign there. We went out, our engineers went out, our street staff went out and evaluated that intersection and said there should absolutely be a stop sign there. It is dangerous. We drew that up, we sent it over to the police department, we sent it to the street department, and we sent that to every person that lives on that street and said, we're planning on putting a stop sign in here on this date. And we put that stop sign in, and we got many thanks from the folks that live on that street. We were able to do that in pretty quick order, but I think in the future, that's probably something we would take to traffic commission. Especially if we were having a meeting soon. If it was something where the meeting was out a ways, maybe something we just handled because we viewed that as a traffic safety issue, and the neighborhood did too. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. It mostly does. I just wondered if there were any other really common examples other than the handicap parking permit. Like obviously there's going to be all these one-off situations, but what else is really common that staff could handle?
Yeah, really the handicap is really the most prevalent. And I think in since August 2019, I think we've had those 3 items come in. The stop sign, the parking there on the corner, and then I think we had 1 handicap spot, and that's all I can recall even coming in since August 2019.
Is that everything, Councilor Stalder? Vice Mayor Gabriel and then Councilor O'Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to express my appreciation, Brooks, for your efforts on Beach and Vista. Just driving there with all the construction workers trying to make a left-hand turn off of Beach onto Vista was so very dangerous situation. And, if it had to wait and go through the traffic commission and all that, I don't think would have been a very good idea because it was something that needed to be done immediately for traffic safety concerns. And with all those people parking there, you just could not see to make a left turn unless you got way out into the street. So it was something that you guys, I'm glad you took care of it and in a very quick fashion.
And I appreciate that. Councilor Gabriel, through you, Mayor, that, in something like that, normally with our old procedure, you would have had to fill out an application and pay a $35 fee. But if we're just going to handle it in-house as staff, as part of our normal job, if we have the ability and the capacity to do that, we're going to do it. I feel like, as the Public Works Director, I feel like that's our job. And so if we can handle it, we're going to do it. If it's a bigger item that we can't handle, we need input on, whatever, we're absolutely going to take it to Traffic Commission. We want their input. We want to work with them. Yeah, but I think that one was definitely a traffic safety issue we needed to take care of expeditiously.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor O'Doherty.
I agree with Mr. Brooks that that is something that, and I'm glad that you clarified that you told the property owners there, because it just takes one person going through there and having a fatal accident that you could prevent with a stop sign. So I'm grateful and I support the amendment. Thank you.
Other hands from the council? Okay, on the amendment, we're going to go to the public to make comments on this amendment. Okay, Nancy, I see your hand up, but you're muted. Nancy Sendelar? Go ahead,
Okay.
Nancy.
Yeah, apparently I'm still invisible. My face went away. No, I think what you're doing with this amendment is awesome. I'm hoping that the Traffic Commission can do more of the real meaty issues instead of the handicap parking, because having it come to us was slowing the process. I have a lot of comments on the bylaws, but I will wait until you tell me you want me to go on those. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else in the public on this amendment only?
Mr. Mayor, point of information.
Go ahead on the point of information.
There's a Scribner error in there. It should be citizen apostrophe S concerned or citizens apostrophe concerns. So I don't know how that gets fixed. Resolve the citizens' concern. So it's multiple citizens and one concern. So it should be.
Yeah, that'll be fixed in the final document. I don't think it's something we have to.
Okay, thank you.
It's just something that makes sense and will be fixed. Brooks, you got that right? Okay. All right, let's go back to the public. Anyone else in the public that wants to make comments regarding the amendment only? Okay, seeing none on the amendment, council, any comments before we vote on the amendment? City Clerk, could we have a vote on the amendment?
Harrington,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 noes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Now we're back to the resolution as amended. Questions from the council on the resolution as amended? Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure if you want to open it up now for other amendments, or you want to allow for more questions and discussion on the document as a whole.
It's whatever you wish. We might.
All right, Mr. Mayor. I have 3 amendments that I want to propose. I'm not sure procedurally if we need to do those one at a time.
Let's do them
or
one at a time.
One at a time. Very well, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd like to introduce an amendment to Section 2, subsection A in the bylaws. Give folks a moment to find that. Section 2, responsibilities. And the amendment that I'm proposing is to insert the following language, beginning with, "It shall be the purpose and responsibility of the commission to serve as an advisory body to the city of Laramie professional staff." I would insert "and city council."
I'll second that.
That's the amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Councilor Doherty. Discussion on this amendment?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Weaver.
thank you. The reason I think this is an appropriate amendment is if you look at City of Laramie's website and the boards and commissions page, you'll see that for a variety of our boards and commissions, the role of advising the city council is typically given in the brief description for the boards and commissions. If you want an example, well, you can certainly go there and pick among several, but they usually have language. For instance, in the case of the Planning Commission, it states that the Planning Commission advises the City Council. Other commissions have similar language. I think it's appropriate in the bylaws for the Traffic Commission to say that the responsibilities are to advise the professional staff and the City Council. I believe that's probably all the discussion that's merited by this proposed amendment, but I hope that we can get some support for that, and I think it makes sense.
Other discussion by council on this proposed amendment? Is there a hand by someone on the city council? City Manager Jordan, did you want to make comments on this?
Mayor, I just wanted to mention that I would see the amendment as friendly and just clarifying. My read on the bylaws is that because city staff report to city council, advice provided to city staff is by virtue of our governance structure, also advice to city council. So I just see the amendment as clarifying in nature.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on the council? The public want to make comments on this proposed amendment? Seeing none, council, any comments? Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now it seems like this might be a little bit of an extraneous amendment, but I'm going to go ahead and stick to my guns and say that we should put the language in there.
Councilor Weaver, we're going to have to vote on this amendment before we go to the next amendment. Okay? All right, so anyone else before we vote on this amendment? Okay, let's have roll call on this second amendment.
Weaver,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Okay, so now we're back to the resolution as amended, again, with two amendments. Councilor Weaver?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like the members of the council to move to section 4. And the amendment that I'm proposing now is to strike the entirety of section C.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Councilor O'Doherty. Councilor Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am proposing this amendment because if you look through the bylaws of, once again, some of our other boards and commissions that have important duties, we have few that have provisions of this nature. For instance, the Planning and Zoning Commission, which I would consider to be one of our important boards and commissions in the community, doesn't have a provision for limitation on consecutive terms. They certainly address a lot of important topics and advise city government on a number of policy decisions, and we haven't seen it necessary to impose this type of consecutive term limitation. I'm not sure why we would do that for the Traffic Commission. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Public Works Director Brooks Webb.
Yeah, Councilor Weaver, through your mayor, I don't have a problem with this amendment at all. I just want to clarify the reason it's in there is we had 3 out of the 6 Traffic Commission members request it when we interviewed them.
Mr. Webb requested to have term limits for the Traffic Commission?
Yes, sir.
Interesting, okay. Councilor Stalder and then Councilor Weaver.
How many people typically apply to be on the Traffic Commission? Are we, having a lot of consecutive terms because there's not a ton of people applying, or?
Councilor Stalder, through you, Mayor, one of the reasons I'm happy to take that out of there is because we don't have many applying. We currently only have 4 active Traffic Commission members. We've been advertising for a month now, and we have 0 applications. So, with we have a membership of 7, but we only have 4 active members right now. No applications.
Councilor Stalder.
That's all, thank you.
Okay, then Councilor Weaver and then City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly for my second time on this, I really appreciate that additional information about this. And I think I recall when we had this meeting, a meeting on this topic from the beginning of the year, that this came up and that was raised as well. But I can't think of probably a better argument in favor of this amendment than the information that we just heard, which is that we often have trouble. I'm not going to say trouble, but we don't have as much interest in some of these boards and commissions as we might hope. Some of them we have high levels of interest in. Some we have less so. I think that may change with this commission, given some of the other changes that are reflected in the bylaws. But I saw that I read through our proposed language here. I wasn't comfortable with that, especially in light of the fact that I don't think it exists for other boards. And that would be the same thing I'd say to any of the membership that had requested this, that it doesn't strike me as appropriate, and it now even more so seems impractical. So yeah, I think it would be advisable for us to go ahead and remove this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City Manager, did you want to make comments?
Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to offer just some perspective, I guess. We did have a conversation not too many years ago about one of our other boards where we had folks who had served like 10 and 15-year terms. And so there has been some precedent with other boards to make sure that we create opportunities for all residents that want to serve. These are unpaid volunteer positions. And sometimes the incumbent reapplying after, 4 or 5 terms probably has a leg up, or I would hope they have a leg up in terms of being appointed. But I just offer that as an alternate perspective. And I'm referring to the airport board, and that's been now probably 4 or 5 years ago that we talked about trying to create some term limits so we would make sure that we give lots of ample opportunity for residents to participate in local government if they want, and also to bring in fresh ideas and new looks. So I don't have a position on the amendment. I think it's totally council's call, but I just offer that as some historical perspective from another board.
Thank you. Councilor Doherty.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I think it's up to council when they choose members of a board to have to make that tough decision. And I know with the Environmental Advisory Council, we had all good people. And so it was up to us to try to say, well, there are new people that would like to get involved and we want to give them an opportunity. So I think that falls on council members, so I'm comfortable with striking that section. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to go to the public Nancy, I'm sure you'll agree that your 7 o'clock start time may be an impediment to a few people, but obviously you have a board that works well together. And did you want to make any comments on this proposed amendment?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Webb, the Honorable Mayor, for listening to the commissioners and hearing all sides of all the different issues. I see that since City Council hires us every 3 years, that putting this amendment in would restrict their own ability to decide who to hire. That's all. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the public? Okay, comments from the council on this proposed amendment? Councilor Schuster?
I'm just looking at it. It says you cannot serve more than 2 consecutive terms. But then it says there is no limit on how many terms a person could serve in a lifetime. So this is saying that you have to sit off 1 term and then could be reelected?
Well, if we're voting on this to strike the entire section, then all of that goes away.
Yeah, all that goes away. So it isn't saying you can't come back, you just have to sit out 1. Okay, that's all.
If this fails, you could come back and
Yeah, I understand that. No,
Okay.
I have no intention of coming back on that. I
Okay.
just looked at it and said it doesn't say you can't reapply. It just says you have to sit out 1.
I understand. Anyone else on the council on this before we vote? City Clerk, could we have the roll call on this?
McKinney,
Yes.
Pierce,
Sorry, yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stelter,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. This resolution now has 3 amendments that have been approved. We'll go back to Councilor Weaver for your next amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And final amendment, and I very much appreciate everyone's patience for these amendments. Much like the amendment that I just proposed, Mr. Mayor, I am now proposing an amendment moving that we amend Section 6, subsection D, striking the entirety of that language, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Councilor Harrington.
Mr. Mayor.
City Clerk, before we go back to you, Councilor Weaver, City Clerk, did you get what we're having for this amendment?
I did, thank you,
Is it clear? Okay. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. This is along a similar line of thinking as the previous amendment, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the comments and the discussion about the previous amendment, some of which I think would apply here. I think I would be more comfortable with leaving this language in there if we were considering across the board changes to our commissions and our advisory boards throughout the city structure. But it seems that to have these types of provisions specifically in bylaws for the Traffic Commission is a little bit incongruent with the way we operate. If you look at the election of officers provisions in the bylaws, once again for the Planning Commission, the language says the chair and vice chair shall serve a 2-year term and may be reelected for additional terms. It doesn't speak to any type of limitation or restriction or limits on whether or not those terms are consecutive. I'm not sure why we would do that specifically for the Traffic Commission if we're not going to entertain similar changes for the rest of our boards and commissions. And I appreciate the previous feedback that this in some way might be the council restricting itself. I don't see it that way. I think, as other councilors mentioned, we interview and select among those who apply and express interest in serving on the city boards and commissions, and we make the best decisions based on those applications and that level of interest. And I think it's the level of interest and in citizen involvement that ultimately expand or limit our options in terms of membership on boards and commissions. And given that that's the case, I'm reluctant to put in provisions in bylaws that would artificially bar interested citizens from serving on any of our advisory boards. So along those same lines, I hope we could get some support for this. And I promise this is the last of the annoying amendments from Councilor Weaver. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments on this or any questions or on this amendment?
Mayor, if I could.
Oh, I'm sorry. Brooks Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, just, Mayor, just to answer Councilor Weaver's question on why we would do this for Traffic Commission. When we interviewed Traffic Commission members, 4 of the 6 asked for limitations of terms in office. One of them saying other people need an opportunity, whatever. So anyway, that's why it's in there, just to answer that question.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like the chance to just say I appreciate that, and thank you for sharing that back with us, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I do appreciate that. I think my statement would be the same to those individuals on the commission that made that request. Is that I think it would be an error for the council to do that, given the points that were addressed already. But I appreciate the background information. I really do.
Okay, thank you. Council? Councilor Stalder, is your hand? Okay. Let's go to the public.
When I raise my hand, you never see me. But when I don't raise my hand, you see me.
Close. Public? Anyone on the public that would like to comment? Okay, comments from the council on this amendment? Okay, let's vote on the amendment. This is the third or fourth amendment?
Fourth amendment.
Fourth amendment. Go ahead, roll call.
Harrington,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
Schuster,
No.
Stalder,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, we have 4 amendments on the resolution, so now we're back to the resolution as amended. Comments by the council. Seeing none, comments from the public. Yes, Nancy Sendelar.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I've got a few little things I found poking around at this. It's amazing how well it has come together.
Nancy, before you get started, you have 3 minutes, so. the
Okay, I'll
clock
be
is
quick.
starting. So make sure you
Okay.
get everything in 3 minutes.
Section 2 responsibilities, Part B. There should be the word "of" after city staff and before evidence-based. The sentence doesn't read real well. Oh, my cell phone just went off. I'm sorry. It's time to go howl at the moon. Okay, that's shut off. I hope you don't catch me on that. Section H of Section 2, or number H of Section 2. At the discretion of the city engineer, create or prioritize a list of potential. I was thinking that should almost be a normal interaction between the commission and the engineer, and not just upon request or have a reaction to staff recommendation. Members can be an extra set of eyes on the street, quote unquote, if they see possible improvements to the street grid. Section 3, general procedures, Part A. An item may be placed on the agenda by a citizen through written request. I thought that was a better way of saying it. Section 4, number B. I think you've discussed that. It's about the councilor's hiring process for volunteers. You might want to add something about how it's advertised and people are interviewed and et cetera, et cetera. That one's been covered. Do we need to require members of the board to be residents of the city or the county? That is not listed in here. The next one, number C of part 6. The council should have, our commission should have a choice of voting orally or by secret paper ballots. That one's been struck. Okay, section 7, chair and vice chair. Number 4, the chair signs all documents memorializing the commission action promptly, or it can be delegated to the recorder. Who does this delegation and for how long? For one meeting or perpetuity? That is not in here. I'm so picky, aren't I? Section 8, recorder. Number 2, prepare the agenda and minutes for all commission agenda items, not meetings. That's just a techno-glick. And prepared by the city engineer. Section 10, attendance. We need to define excused or unexcused absences. Are they a medical absence, a family emergency, vacation out of town, or you just didn't call the recorder and tell them that you would be absent?
Okay, Nancy,
Section 11,
3 minutes are up.
quorum, we covered that.
Nancy, thank you.
I am
Nancy, your 3
done,
minutes are
I
up.
think. Yep, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the public? Okay, let's go back to council. Just a thought for some of the comments that was made by Nancy Sindler. I think a lot of these details can be worked out with not only the traffic commission body, but also by the chair and vice chair, so that they are just the rules that you set for yourselves, and if necessary, ask the council to come back and make amendments. City clerk?
Mayor, I was just going to point out that on section 17, amendments do come before the council for approval, final approval.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Council, anything else on the resolution as amended? Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to just ask a clarifying question about the bylaws, which is that I did look at the changes, and it looks like, although it isn't spelled out specifically, there isn't anything in there about maintaining or retaining the 7 a.m. meeting time. There is something about meeting on Thursdays, but the time of the meeting, it looks like it's open for change and to be rescheduled. Is that the case, Mr. Mayor?
We'll go to Mr. Brooks on that.
Councilor Weaver, through you, Mayor, in section 12, number A under regular meetings, the meeting shall be held at such time and place as designated by a majority of the entire commission and with appropriate notice. So it's, if they want to do it at 7, they vote on it, and majority wins.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, in terms of maybe having the public be able to participate and maybe attracting some some future new traffic commissioners. Perhaps if that meeting isn't at 7 o'clock in the morning, it might be a more attractive commission to serve on, and we might get a little bit more public engagement, prior to when they might be upset about changes to the paint or something else. But I just wanted to get a little more information about that. And let me also just give a big thanks to the folks putting in so much work, our existing members and the staff and the work that went into it. It's not a small thing to restructure and kind of tear apart and rebuild one of our important commissions. So thanks a lot, and it's noticed and appreciated, and hopefully it will make for a more effective and useful traffic commission going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Gabriel and then Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to bring up maybe to Brooks through what Nancy had said about being a resident of the city and the lack. Do you see anything in the resolution that would cover that? Or is that just something kind of an oversight?
Yeah, Councilor Gabriel, through you, Mayor. I don't think we put anything in there on that. I don't think.
If I may jump in,
oh,
that's in the ordinance.
In the ordinance. Okay.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Southard. Now let's go to Councilor Pierce.
Yeah, and this comment has to do with the time of the meeting. And when I was first on council, I was the liaison for the Traffic Commission for a couple of years. And I was always under the impression, although it may have just been me at 7 a.m., but, because we have a lot of folks from the state attending those meetings, I just felt like it was a good time for our colleagues from Wyoming Department of probably Highway or whatever to based on their availability. Now I could be wrong, but I'm wondering if that is the case as to why those meetings are at that time of day. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that, but I thought we were meeting at that time, mostly out of partnership with other state entities.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce.
Councilor Pierce, through you, Mayor. I'm not exactly sure why it was at 7 a.m. We do notify YDOT when we're having those meetings and invite them to come. Sometimes they do come. I'm not exactly sure the 7 o'clock. When I started as director, they were at 7 o'clock. But I'm not exactly sure why. Nancy may know, but I don't know.
Well, let me just say this, that by the bylaws is a discussion that would be important for Nancy and also those that serve on that committee to have that discussion and come up with the best time for those that serve and for the community that comes there to have input. So it's built in, nothing is in stone, and it has to be at 7. I think Nancy wants to start at 5, but we're gonna let them make that determination. Nancy says no. All right, anyone else that has any comments? Councilor Doherty.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to just strike an amendment on section 4. In section 4, I would like to make an amendment to strike by voice vote because we got rid of nobody can serve more than 2 consecutive years as an officer. It just makes it a lot easier to not dictate to the commission that they have to make their, they have to do a voice vote. They may want to do a piece of paper that they hand to the secretary. So I'd like to just strike by voice vote under section 4. And now I've lost C, 4C, where it says nominations of officers shall be by oral motion. At the close of nomination, the commission shall vote upon the names nominated for office. And just strike by voice vote. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brooks.
Mayor, I believe it's under 6C.
All right, is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Counselor Weaver. Okay, discussion on the Fifth or Sixth Amendment. Counselor Schuster?
No, I just heard up 5, I believe.
5, okay. Discussion, council? Discussion from the public? Comments from the council?
Mayor, this is Bob Southern. I'm a little bit lost. I want to make sure where I am on this amendment because of the Open Meetings Act. So what are we striking?
I just wanted to,
Go ahead, Councilor Doherty.
in section 6C, that the nominations by oral motion, and then the next sentence, strike by voice vote. It could be a paper vote that's handed to the secretary, and if somebody needs to see that, they could ask for the vote.
Well, I'm not so sure. I think this is governed by the Open Meetings Act, and people, I think, are entitled without further steps to know how people voted.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my amendment.
The maker of the motion to amend has withdrawn. Is this Councilor Harrington? Are you willing to withdraw your second?
Counselor Harrington isn't, but I am.
Oh, Councilor Weaver, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, so we're now back to the resolution as amended. Final discussion before we vote. Okay, this is the roll call now on the resolution as amended. City Clerk.
Pierce,
Yes.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
McKinney,
No.
Harrington,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
And with that vote, that resolution passes. Now we go to item number 14, Councilor O'Doherty.
Sorry, I was muted. I move to approve on third and final reading, original ordinance 2009, amending chapter 10.08 of the Laramie Municipal Code to the official traffic commission and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
It's been moved in second, I believe, by Councilor Harrington. Okay. This is the third reading. Anything new on this, Mr. Webb?
I think maybe this. I think.
Yeah,
I think maybe this is my problem.
Okay, good. Mr.
No, there's nothing new. This incorporates all amendments in the other readings, just stretched over 3 meetings. So it is as this council has worked over. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Mr. City Attorney Southard or Mr. Webb? Questions, comments from the general public? Comments from the council before we vote? Roll call.
O'Doherty,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Stalder,
Yes.
Schuster,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
McKinney,
No.
Harrington,
Yes.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses and 1 no, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Item number 14, which reestablishes the official traffic commission, has been approved. So we move forward now with that as with the resolutions that we have previously approved. And the bylaws, I mean. Okay, we are now at the point, Council, do you want to take a break or do you want to finish up anyone willing? Okay, let's just move forward. The next item is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak during this public comment period? If so, you have 3 minutes on any topic. Okay, Nancy Sindelar, go ahead.
Just want to thank everyone on the council, the mayor and the councilors for the hard work they've done on this, and also the engineers and Mr. Webb and the city manager, and please forgive me if I've left out someone. I think our first meeting is going to be at 7 o'clock whenever you decide, so we can decide what time we're going to meet. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public that would like to make public comments? Seeing none, we'll close this public comment period and want to now move on to item number 10, which is consideration of future council work session topics. Anyone on the council that has a topic that they would like to have considered for a future council work session? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to item number 17, Councilor Pierce.
Okay, I move that we adjourn to executive session regarding litigation, Wyoming statute 16-4-405, lowercase a, Roman numeral 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Vice Mayor Gabriel. All in favor of adjourning to executive session indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. We're going to begin.